Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today I'm going to be showing you Holo Taco's Holo Royalty Shimmering Secrets set. The set includes 4 polishes designed by Holo Royalty, which is the highest tier of their loyalty program, and it also includes the silver holo pouch in the background. Both of those things are limited edition, but the pink smoothing base coat is permanent, so I will be sharing that as well. I have a ton of comparisons for these 4 polishes, so as always I will have timestamps in the description box for everything if you're looking for a specific shade, but I will save more of my thoughts for the end. For now, let's just get into the swatches. So first up, I have to show the silver holo pouch in direct sunlight because the holo is so intense. And here's a little satisfying sticker peel from the front logo. The zipper has the logo as well, and everything is just so shiny, so reflective. The inside has enough space to hold 4 bottles of nail polish on one side, and then the other side has these 2 kind of compartments, I guess, for whatever else could fit, but it definitely is pretty roomy. It's a decent size, and it definitely is super holographic even outside of direct sunlight. And one more thing before we get into the swatches, I did also want to show the pink smoothing base that also just launched. This is the only thing that isn't limited edition, so you don't have to worry about this ever going away. If you're unfamiliar, smoothing base coats are usually just a little bit milkier than typical clear base coats. This one obviously has a pink tinted color to it, which is really nice because it just brightens up your nail and just looks very natural, but it is also really subtle just on one coat alone, so you could also layer this in 2 coats for a little bit more coverage. I don't think I would go as far as saying that it blurs your nail lines so much, but it definitely can stand in for a pink sheer polish, for example. So here for my full hand, I wanted to show the comparison between a clear base coat and the pink smoothing base. I have the clear coat on my pointer and middle, and then the pink smoothing base on my ring and pinky. Again, it's a subtle difference, but really natural. Now getting into the polishes, I did want to show a quick look at the cartons that they come in because they are these silver limited edition holographic cartons with the little spyglass motifs. They are just so cute. So the first polish we have is Blush Money, and this one is described as a medium pink jelly holographic glitter formula with a scattered holo silver glitter. Even though this is described as a jelly, it definitely is still pretty pigmented. You can see here on the first coat alone, I have really great coverage. It's also absolutely packed with those micro glitters as well, so I feel like you could get away with this in one coat if you wanted a little bit more of that squishy jelly kind of look. The formula just self-levels really well, and it's just very even coverage. Personally, I found that this one built up to be nearly fully opaque on just 2 coats alone. There is a little hint of nail line, but I just don't think it's enough to warrant a 3rd coat. And overall, this is definitely a super cute polish. I was excited about the idea of it, but seeing it in real life, I feel like it's just a little dustier than I was expecting it to be. So I tried to mimic the look that I wanted by doing 1 coat of Blush Money over 2 coats of pink smoothing base, and it definitely lightens it up. And just in case you're curious, I did want to show 1 coat of Blush Money over both a clear base coat and then over 1 coat of pink smoothing base. So while it's a little bit lighter or brighter over the pink smoothing base, it's not really going to be enough to change the actual color or coverage of the polish. Of course, we had to get a purple in this collection, and this one is called Inside Job, and it's described as a bold purple jelly with a specialty holographic glitter formula with square-shaped glitters. This is basically the same kind of formula as Smoke Show from the Gala collection, or more recently, Crystal Skies from the After Party collection that launched late last year. But this is like the true purple color that was missing from their glitter catalog. It's definitely a bold and beautiful color. Again, it has a really nice formula that's very pigmented on the first coat alone, so I found it even enough that you could wear it in 1 coat, but I still built it up in 2 and found it perfectly opaque. And because this one is a super chunky glitter polish, you definitely are going to want to use a peel-off base coat for this one, and I would say for the last shade too. Next we have Teal No Lies, and this one is described as a deep teal metallic with smooth, shiny microflakes. This one was absolutely stunning, and I got this fully opaque for me in 1 coat. Granted, I am a little heavy-handed, and I did end up needing a 2nd coat later on for my Skittle, but I was still just so impressed with the formula, the coverage, the color. Chef's kiss. I feel like these colors do tend to stain, especially from Holo Taco, so just be careful with that. And rounding out the Shimmering Secrets collection is Spyglass, and this one is described as a cornflower blue crushed holographic with a blue iridescent micro shimmer underglow, which is just a fancy way of saying that it's a crushed holo with a blue shimmer. The shimmer in this is just a little bit finer and therefore more densely packed, so that's why it kind of has a little bit more of a glowy look. I think some of Holo Taco's other shimmers are a little bit larger in their particle size, so you can kind of see like the flecks of shimmer, if that makes sense, versus this shimmer gives it more of a sheen. But either way, it's still a shimmer and it is absolutely gorgeous. This one totally gave me Cinderella vibes. It's easily my favorite from the collection. Even if it was just the cornflower crushed holo, I would still really love it, but I do love that glowy blue shimmer. It's not the most glowy blue shimmer that I've seen, but it's still really pretty and it does stand out. I did also notice a subtle shift to like a pink color in indirect light, but it was just so hard to capture on camera. And lastly, I wanted to show one coat of Spyglass over 2 coats of pink smoothing base because I really love how you get a softer, lighter color but with a little bit more coverage. And here is the collection worn as a Skittle. I'm wearing 2 coats each over a clear base coat. Like I mentioned before, I needed a second coat for my Skittle here for Teal No Lies because the first coat was just not as opaque as it was for my initial thumb swatch. But again, if you are heavy-handed or if you have shorter nails, I think you could get away with just 1 coat. But I think the other shades look great in just 2. Even in direct sunlight, I feel like Blush Money and Spyglass still looked really full coverage and you didn't really need a third coat for them. Now getting into comparisons, we're starting with pink smoothing base and looking at it next to the original smoothing base, which as you can see has a more beigey, but I would say even yellow tinted color. I really wouldn't call this like a true neutral beige, so I never really liked this one because I just didn't find it flattering. But I was most curious to see how this new smoothing base compares to Mooncat's Getting Even Nail Primer, which is basically their pink milky base coat. And I do have to preface by saying that my bottle of Mooncat's primer is older, so I had to add thinner and I accidentally added a little too much. So I don't know how well you can tell, but I'm wearing 1 coat of each here and I feel like on Mooncat's side it just looks thinner. So try not to mind that too much. I think if I didn't do that, these would be really comparable in terms of their coverage. You can see how they build up here on 2 coats, and if anything, I guess I would say that Mooncat's is a little bit more white based. I did get some comparisons to show the pink smoothing base next to a couple of sheer pinks, mainly from Cirque. The first one here is Chiffon, which is definitely one of my go-tos. This one has a slightly peachier kind of color, and I also thought to show this next to Cirque's Odette from their more recent Encore collection. While this one also looks like a brighter, almost whiter kind of color, on the nail, I feel like they ended up looking pretty similar. So here I'm wearing 1 coat of each, and again, it might be kind of hard to tell because these are such sheer colors, but when I did the second coat here, you can see that Cirque Chiffon leans a little bit more peachy, but Odette, as you can see, is pretty similar to pink smoothing base. Maybe it is a little bit whiter, but I feel like if anything, I noticed the difference more on camera than I did in real life. Then for Blush Money, I wanted to show this next to Curfew Crasher because I was just immediately reminded of that shade with how muted Blush Money was. Obviously, it's not as dark as Curfew Crasher and not as purpley mauve-y. It also has a different finish and all of that, but color-wise, you can see the differences here on the nail. I'm wearing 2 coats of each, and they're definitely not dupes, but again, I was still just kind of surprised with how muted Blush Money was. It just ended up being a lot closer to Curfew Crasher than I wanted it to be. Speaking of blush, I figured I can also show this next to Lowkey Blushing from the Down to Earth Creams bundle last fall. This one is a totally different shade of pink where it's deeper but also just warmer in general. And for another cream, I thought I could show this next to Pinky Swear from last year's Pastel and Don't Tell bundle. This one is obviously much lighter, more of a true white base pastel pink, so you can see just how medium toned Blush Money is. Then for a glitter comparison, I thought I could show this next to Menchie the cat, which is the OG glitter formula mix. So it is definitely a totally different finish, but even color-wise, they are a little bit different. Menchie the cat's just a little bit more of an icy pink. And here's Blush Money next to Toe Beans, which was from last year's Royalty debut trio. So even though we did get another pink, this one is a little bit lighter, again more of that icy kind of color due to all of the silver in it being a linear holo. But it does have a pink shimmer too that kind of matches it. And lastly, I wanted to show Blush Money next to Life in Plastic from last year's 4-year anniversary collection. That was Holo Taco's first time doing a jelly micro glitter type of formula, but as you can see, the micro glitter is definitely very different. It's a lot smaller and finer in Life in Plastic. I think the closest polish that I have in my collection to Blush Money is Cirque Colors True Love's First Kiss from their Far Far Away collection last year. This is one of their shimmer graphic polishes, so it has a ton of scattered holographic micro glitters as well as a blue shimmer running throughout, which is obviously missing from Blush Money. The only thing that they have in common is that micro glitter in a pink base, but even still the base colors are different, where Cirque is lighter, more of that true light bubblegum pink color. Moving on to Inside Job, the first polish I wanted to show it next to was Midnight Owl from the After Party collection. This one is a true indigo shade. It's a lot darker, so you can see just how much of a grape purple Inside Job is, and not to mention they have a slightly different finish. And I did also want to show this next to Plum Luck, my beloved that was sadly retired. This was from the Holiday Glitters collection, so it's that original glitter formula that doesn't have these square glitters, but even still it's a totally different tone where it's more of a burgundy purple. You might remember we did get 2 purple shades out of the 3 from the Royal debut trio last year. This is Glamethyst, which was the purple micro glitter formula, but as you can see, it is much lighter. Again, that same kind of original glitter mix, but this one also has a green shimmer. If anything, color-wise, Inside Job is actually closer to Royal Crush, which is the frosted metal. So obviously they're not dupes because of their very different finishes. Royal Crush doesn't have any kind of holographic sparkle, at least not that I could see, and it has this kind of foily metallic kind of look to it, but once you see them on the nail, the color differences are also very apparent, where Royal Crush is darker and a little bit cooler toned. Next for Teal No Lies, I wanted to quickly show this next to Aquafoil from the One Coat Chromes collection last year. Again, that one has a very different finish, but color-wise, Aquafoil is much lighter, more of a true aqua shade, so definitely not dupes. I thought something closer might be Holo Taco's Hydropower, even though that is a linear holographic, so again, totally different finish and look overall, but even the color is still just a little too light. So I think the closest shade to Teal No Lies is Never Tied Down from last year's Vacation collection. Even though I wouldn't call Never Tied Down a teal, it just kind of has elements where the golden shimmers and flakies in that blue base almost give it a teal quality, but as you can see on the nail, the differences are definitely very obvious. Mainly when it comes to the base color, Teal No Lies is just a lot darker, but again, I feel like the little micro flakies kind of look like the same color as some of the flakes in Never Tied Down. I did also have a few other bottle comparisons, starting with Starry-Eyed from the After Party collection. That one's more of a true deep pine or emerald kind of green color, so even though Teal No Lies is a green leaning blue, it is just way too blue to be close to Starry-Eyed. Not to mention it's a totally different finish. And I did get a request to see Teal No Lies next to Brucie from the Sophia collection. That one does have this sort of teal aqua shimmer, but the base color is this darker charcoal sort of gray, so overall just too dark and not comparable. I also got some requests for a few Mooncat polishes, starting with Snake Charmer, which was a glitter from the Medusa collection. That one does have a teal base color, but it's a little bit more on the green leaning side, not to mention it also having a bunch of gold glitters. But something a little bit closer, I think, is Mooncat's Poseidon's Prize from the Expedition Atlantis collection. This one is a magnetic with a slightly more jelly kind of formula and also has reflective glitters, but aside from that, the actual actual blue based color and the sort of shimmer effect that it has is kind of similar to Teal No Lies. So I'm wearing 2 coats of each here on the nail. You can see just how green leaning Mooncat Snake Charmer is, and not that I would call Poseidon's Prize a dupe by any means, but I still feel like the colors are kind of similar, like maybe they could be cousins. And lastly, for Spyglass, the first polish I wanted to show it next to was Peri-Social from the recent Cookies and Crumbs bundle. That one is a true periwinkle cream, so you can see just how cornflower Spyglass is when it comes to its color. If anything, it's a little bit more similar to something like Holo Taco's Frostlight from the original Glitters collection a couple of years ago. That one is more of like a true icy sky blue kind of color, so it's not as dusty as Spyglass is. And here it is next to Crystal Skies from the more recent After Party collection. This one is a little bit more similar in terms of how muted it is, but it ends up being a lot darker and gray leaning on the nail. So they are definitely not dupes. You can see just how glowy and how much brighter Spyglass is compared to the other two. I also wanted to quickly show this next to Mooncat's Sabertooth from last year's Pretty Prehistoric collection. That one I would kind of consider like a cornflower blue as well, but as you can see, it is super light, more white based, and even the shimmer is much more of an aqua color as well, so definitely not dupes. If anything, I was more immediately reminded of Cirque's Spoonful of Sugar from their more recent Twisted Tea Party collection. This one has a pretty similar cornflower dusty blue base color, even though it's more of a jelly base and it has a different color shimmer. There's still a hollow sparkle, so kind of similar vibes. And I figured I could also show it next to ILNP's Bluebell from their Wildflowers collection. That one was described as having a sky blue jelly base, but I said it was more cornflower. So you can see it definitely is a little bit more similar to these cornflower blue shades, but still a little bit darker. So on the nails, I'm wearing 2 coats of each, and again, ILNP and Cirque have more of a true jelly kind of finish. Spyglass is obviously more opaque with the crushed hollow finish, and their shimmers are all totally different, so not dupes. So that wraps up my swatches and comparisons for Holo Taco's Holo Royalty Shimmering Secrets set. So as a reminder, the set, the polishes, the silver holo pouch are all limited edition, and unfortunately, as of recording, the set is sold out along with the silver holo pouch, but all 4 polishes are still available, so you could pick those up individually if you wanted. I know Christine did say in the stream that they made lower quantities of the silver holo pouch, so I'm not surprised that they did already sell out. But they definitely have been better at keeping stock of their limited edition polishes. For reference, last year's Royal Debut Trio, which also launched in April, lasted several months. I want to say maybe to the end of summer, the early fall, before any of those sold out. So I imagine you would have a few months at least to grab some of these polishes. But yeah, I'm sorry that the set and the silver holo pouch aren't available anymore, and for sharing them in my video. When I got these in yesterday, they were still available, so I was really hoping to have this video up in time, but you'll have to let me know if you did end up grabbing the whole set or just the pouch or just some of the polishes. Let me know your thoughts of them down below. Overall, I definitely thought the release was cute. Like, I like the colors, I like the different finishes, the newer finishes, especially with Teal No Lies being that kind of like liquid metallic sort of finish, but especially with Spyglass being that crushed hollow and shimmer combination. I think it's just so stunning, and I'm especially impressed with the shimmer in that one because last year they included a shimmer in Glamethyst, which was the micro glitter formula, and that was just underwhelming for me. So it's a cute collection. I love the vibes, I love the theme, the names, you know, so punny, but I can definitely see if you do have a larger collection with like other indie brands that these are a little bit more on the basic side. But yeah, those are pretty much my thoughts on the release, so I would love to know yours down below in the comments so we can chat about it. If you did enjoy this review, especially the many comparisons that I shared, that was definitely the bulk of this video, please consider leaving me a like because that really means a lot. Just as a side note, when it comes to comparisons, if there are other shades, especially from Holo Taco, that I didn't share, it's likely because I don't have them, but Holo Taco does share comparisons as well, mainly on their Instagram page. Unfortunately, they aren't on the website, but they do have a whole highlight reel dedicated to comparisons for all the new polishes that they release. So if there was something that you didn't see in my video, I would recommend going to check out their highlight. I can also have that link down below. But yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!